Welcome all to Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a light on incredible organizations and the work that they do. I am your host, Josh Basil. I'm a C4-5 quadriplegic, paralyzed below my shoulders. I'm a disability rights advocate, passionate about breaking down barriers for persons with disabilities. Today, we're going to be joined by John Kemp and the Lakeshore Foundation. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much, Josh. Pleasure to be with you.
So let's share a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about.
Well, I was born with my disability. I was born without arms off right above the elbows and one leg off above the knee and my right leg off just below the knee. So I have a full knee on my right leg, but I only have one of the two bones in the lower right leg. So I bounced around as a baby and a kid and really never learned to walk until I got artificial legs when I was 3 and arms when I was about 3.5. And they were short arms. I show my hook here, my clamp. And because my arms are off above the elbows, they put the clamp at the end of the upper arm and did not have an elbow. So I was not able to feed myself or toilet or do things like that. So in my very first set and for the first couple of years, I did not have that ability, but I was learning how to open and close and doing things like this and just how to operate my prostheses and learning balance and going up steps and all those kinds of barriers that should not exist at all today. But anyway, I was born with my disability, which gives me a different perspective than someone who has acquired a disability. And I constantly get asked about what's the difference and is it better? Is it worse? It's like you never know the answer to a question like that. There's no way to ever possibly guess what that's all about.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Exactly.
And we live our best lives each and every day because gotta keep moving forward.
Exactly. Now I will tell you that my mother gave birth to my little sister 11 months after I was born. So we're Irish twins, and she does not have a disability. And then my mother died 3 months after my little sister was born. And I have an older sister. So my dad was 32 years old with 3 kids. I'm the middle child. And he was responsible for raising us. And he would use the services of a housekeeper that would make sure that the place was kept very clean and neat and had somebody to help cook and do those types of things. But he was just an incredible guy to have some visioning about what my life should be like and then how to balance me in between my 2 sisters and keep harmony. And, as I was getting sort of like this false set of attentions, about, oh, you're so different and you have prostheses and you're going to go to public school and then to parochial school. He had to keep kind of a balance with my sisters and making sure that they felt good about themselves and their development. He was a master. He was an extraordinary man. Lived to 90, ended up having Parkinson's in the last 14 years of his life, but was a very successful federal and state government executive. He was Secretary of Transportation for the state of Kansas and was a federal employee. So he was all about public service. He had 62 consecutive years of public service, county, state, federal, back to state.
Get you, within your younger career, more involved within public service that you've done?
Yes, Josh, that's a correct observation because I did work for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and I spent a number of summers in college and in law school working for federal agencies. And he, of course, had friends and ways in which he knew how to be sure that I was considered fairly for those opportunities. But I did, and I've always worked or gone to school from the time I graduated from high school.
And now let's talk a little bit about the work you're doing with Lakeshore. Tell us about the Lakeshore Foundation.
I'll be glad to. It's such a beautiful place. It's like a spiritual place. And it does tremendous work for people with disabilities who want to maintain and strengthen their health and improve their health and extend good years to life. So I think that part has been really, really helpful. But we don't just deal with people with children and adults with disabilities in sports and recreation activities. We're the home to elite athletes, and we're a Paralympic training site. We are home to the Team USA wheelchair rugby team that took silver medal in Tokyo.
That's awesome.
And I'm telling you, you and I ride a scooter, you got a chair, and you bump into something and you kind of feel like, oh, I'm going to leave a mark on the wall. I'm going to hurt somebody. And I don't mean to. These guys intentionally slam into each other and knock each other out of their chairs. And it's 4-on-4 on a basketball court to try and figure out how to get through sort of a wide set of gates, posts that you have to clear to get to score points, but they'll score 50 points in a game. So anyway, so we go from elite athletes to children with disabilities who come here for team sports or for individual training and exercise. And we have universally designed equipment. We have heated pools and regular temp pools. So if we I think are the masters of that expertise, and yet we have relationships with U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. We've got the World Games coming here in Birmingham. We're going to be the disability inclusion consultants to them and are right now, how to improve the athlete experience for athletes with disabilities as well as the fan experience. So this is an incredible, incredible facility, a lot of trails. But then I wanted to add, we have advocacy and research. And we do care.
What does that look like?
And we do, and thank you, we do care a lot about, not just people coming and going from here, but what is their overall quality of life? Are they able to get a job? Are they able to get an education? Are they able to participate in their civic responsibilities and social activities of their choice? So we spend a lot of time advocating for these types of things. And so that's a big part of what we do. The research component now is to take our 2,000, 3,000 members who come here several times a week and work out and swim and do all sorts of activities, and ask them if they would like to be part of research studies and gather from them, how sports and recreation and physical activity improves their overall health and physical and mental well-being. So I think the idea of physical activity improving your overall health and well-being has been proven very well, and we're experts in this area.
Let's see, transforming lives.
Trying, I've been in the employment and education and civil rights areas of disability, but never in this area, and it's really, really exciting.
So in this area, obviously, I know our audience doesn't know, but this is a new job for you. And what is your title? What is your role? And what is kind of your day-to-day going to be looking like going forward?
I am in my 6th week as president and CEO of the Lakeshore Foundation, which is a national organization. It has a great presence in Birmingham. It's known and respected for what it is and what it does for people with disabilities and health conditions. But we're sub-recipients of federal grants through the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and other organizations. And we look at nationwide how to develop curricula for phys ed teachers in general education schools. We look at a lot of different programming around the country on how we can add to the knowledge base and the knowledge transfer about what health means to people with disabilities.
I was looking on the website. You guys have so many different programs and services that are available across the country, which is a beautiful thing. So how do people find out? What website do they have to go to learn more about what you guys are all about?
They would go to www.lakeshore.org. They can find us. And we're Lakeshore Foundation in Birmingham, Alabama, for sort of hands-on, real live experiences, no matter what your disability is. We focus on physical disabilities primarily, but people present with multiple conditions, so we are pretty adept at handling a multitude of conditions that come to us, people with multiple conditions. But they can find us at lakeshore.org, and I think they'll see a lot of different activities.
That's awesome. And you mentioned before that you were a civil rights advocate and you did a lot of civil rights work. I would love to learn what was your one of your most uh, favorite or proudest accomplishments of your civil rights advocacy?
There are a few that I feel very proud of. I think helping to get the ADA passed still remains one of the great accomplishments. But it wasn't me. It was about 50 to 100 serious advocates, and I'm including Senator Bob Dole and John McCain and a number of people who, as veterans with disabilities, certainly brought along great experience, plus the political power and will to make something happen. Ted Kennedy, Senator Ted Kennedy, and his son, Ted Jr., who's an awesome advocate unto himself. But it takes a village, so to speak, to get something like that done. The hard part for all of us with disabilities was that we all came together to get the ADA passed on July 26, 1990. And we enjoyed that day on the White House grounds. It was just remarkable with George H.W. Bush as president and other dignitaries. Bob Dole got called out very well and very nicely by President Bush. But one of the sad parts is that coalition of people with disabilities, parents, providers, government officials, elected officials, just dissipated. And we never organized that into a stronger movement across these different almost silos as they are now. And I think that they were before, we all came together and everybody reverted to their comfortable place. There are ways in which people come together now and organizations come together and bridge these stovepipes. And I hope that, if anything, in Bob Dole's passing, in honor of Bob Dole, that we as a country, not just on disability, but on all things, have learned our lesson about how important it is for us to be able to give and take, to be able to have progress and make progress in this world. And that's in disability rights, that's in the economy, it's in healthcare, it's in all areas.
It's a lesson learned that can go really far to make a difference. Um, and there's I think I've heard a lot about, and I've kind of lived it myself within my years with a disability. Is unfortunately so many of the disability groups sometimes end up fighting and advocating for their unique population a little bit too strongly, and instead of working together as a disability community, sometimes things don't get passed or get pushed forward because of it's I've always been a big proponent of power in numbers. And the more people we have on the ground together as a unit, we can get things, we become a bigger force for good. I don't know if that was something you were alluding to
I am,
after the EDA, that we kind of went our separate directions, or
I am, Josh, and you're absolutely right that the idea of creating 5 years after the ADA was passed, the American Association of People with Disabilities, which I co-founded with Paul Hearn, who is just a hilariously brilliant guy that just made everybody laugh and realize he's just a real human being, who's just wickedly smart and funny. To be able to get the AAPD as to identify the economic and political power of people with disabilities and to rally people across these different silos, so to speak, was one attempt to try to harness the power of people with disabilities. I think AAPD is in great hands today. Maria Town is doing a fabulous job. Ted Kennedy's their junior is their board chair. They have a terrific board of leadership on the board and staff. And I think they're taking on the big issues. And once we got the ADA and once we got a place like AAPD that could kind of stay above the individual disability definitions and organizations built around disability types and looked at cross disability issues in a broader way, I thought we would be in such good shape. But what we did was we entered the big leagues, and we were in the minor leagues before. And then when we became part of the big leagues, people said, hey, before we did it because it was always the right thing to do. Don't oppose anything about disability. But you're asking for billions of dollars, and we want to spend our billions of dollars over here, and you want us to fix the elevators in New York City. And we don't want to do that. And we don't want to fix the elevators and the subway system in Washington, D.C. No, you're going to have to come back with more people and more groups and show your political power to be able to demonstrate that. So we've got to come up in a big way. And that was really probably the most sobering thing about being a part of a movement, from the beginning, early stages of the movement, all the way through to where we are today. We had to grow up, and we had to start realizing that we have to create alliances with non-disability organizations and business communities and provider communities. And they are not our enemies. They are our friends for the most part. And if they see us as full-fledged citizens that have something great to offer them and to society, then I think we are in better shape. So that's what Disability In, which was called USBLN, was about, and that's what it's all about now, and a number of organizations. But I think we're starting to see disability inclusion coming from maybe both ends or many different ends to a center point, which will be that we're all together in the center.
And I've, at least in the last, I'd say 3 to 5 years, I've seen and heard more conversations about diversity, equity, inclusion more than ever within the business world, which gives me great hope that businesses are starting to recognize that disability needs and deserves a seat at the table, or to be a conversation almost in everything that companies are doing. What are you hearing, seeing, or feeling around that subject?
I try to position it the same way you do. And I say, well, are you going to arbitrarily just cut out 10 to 20% of your applicant pool or your advancement pool? Is that good business? So you might have, your Stephen Hawking's in that pool that you just booted to the side. And just simply because of a characteristic of disability, just arbitrary like that. How wasteful is that to him or her, and how wasteful is it to the employer and the company or the government to dispose of somebody so arbitrarily? So I think it's in everyone's best interest, the individual with a disability, of course, to be an economic force unto themselves, but to the quality of life that we bring to our entire community. Here you're going to be a dad, you're married, you're going to have this incredible life. You already have an incredible life. You're adding to your incredible life. And I'm sure some people just can't believe it. They cannot believe that you have this life. Well, of course you can have this life, but you're also a brilliant, brilliant guy, Josh. And we all benefit by having all of Josh be in all parts of the lives that you choose to be a part of.
Well, first, thank you.
You're welcome.
And means so much hearing that from you. And so you were talking about this applicant pool. So for businesses, what advice could you give around inclusive hiring?
Well, first of all, if anyone is using artificial intelligence in the recruitment area, I'd be very suspect of it. There are a lot of software programs out there, a lot of AI that are looking at not only position descriptions, but they're also looking at applications that are coming in. It may be that no human being looks at an application until it's gone through 2 or 3 cuts. And if there are gaps identified in a work history, they might just arbitrarily be moving those out. Now, why might there be gaps? Well, let's see. Car accidents, injuries, maybe psychological issues that require someone to step away from the workplace for a while, then they can come back. Any kind of gap for whatever reason, family choices, whatever. But that can arbitrarily move people out. So that's just having a machine look at a document. The other is using video like we are doing right now and answering 5 to 10 to 15 questions and answering them to the camera and looking the camera in the eye of the camera. And if you are from a culture that doesn't allow, say, women to look at another person in the eye, or if you are blind, or if you're blind and you're looking off to the side because you know where the speakers are coming from, but you don't know exactly where the camera is, they're going to pick up on these little tricks of the trade. Also in the cadence of people's voices, the cadence, the speed. Are there long delays? Are there long pauses? Are words and sentences strung together smoothly? If someone has cerebral palsy or some other limitation that causes them to have these kinds of difficulties, before a human being even sees the video, it will get kicked out. It can get kicked out. So I would be very careful about buying, if I were a company, or a government agency or a university, buying any kind of software that proposes to do this kind of screening, unless it's inclusive screening. And then again, it still could create a hierarchy. No problems here, a couple of problems in eye contact or speech pattern or this or that. So overall, I'd say just on the recruiting side and using technology only, there's a whole lot of risk involved for people with disabilities. So with all the innovation and creativity that technology brings, it brings these other problems along with it.
And if businesses want to learn more about like really how to communicate or, let's say do an interview with a person with a disability, where can they go to kind of learn kind of the tricks of the trade or just to educate themselves more about that?
Well, it's a great question. I have been involved in it all my life, and we did when I was at the Viscardi Center before Lakeshore, we did a 5-year contract with them on employment of people with disabilities and developed a lot of resources. That contract was then awarded to Cornell University, and Cornell has a very, very good set of resources there. And Susan Bruyere is just a brilliant individual who has a great handle on all of the activities that are going on around it. But the Department of Labor, U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Disability Employment Programs, ODEP. If people just look at DOL-ODEP.gov, just go to ODEP and start looking at the resources. Jennifer Sheehy is there. There's a new assistant secretary who I'm very proud of, and I'll be meeting her soon, is there now. She had worked on the Senate staff side, which is great experience. And I think they have a lot of resources that they generate themselves or they generate through contractual relationships with the Viscardi Center, Cornell, and a number of other resources. They can find out a lot. And there's a lot of this training online that is available. And you might get a consultant who might want to come and, let people ask those ridiculous questions that they ask us folks with disabilities. And you got to give them permission to do that. That's the part.
Get it out of the way. Get it out of the
Get
way.
it out of the way. Get it out of the way.
No, I love this. I could talk with you for hours upon hours upon hours and ask you so many more questions, but our time is up here today. I just want to thank you so much for joining us on Spotlight Sessions and for your time and your wisdom and just everything that John Kemp's about. So thank you.
Thank you, Josh. My pleasure.
All right, everyone. Till next time, have a beautiful day.